Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Lisa Huber, and you're listening to the Divine I Am Broadcast Network, where we bring spiritual and metaphysical awareness from the heart to the public. And today, it's my pleasure to introduce my friend, Ashley Lee. I'm so excited. She's amazing. She's an innovative and visionary thought leader in the field of advanced pediatric energy healing. Ashley supports, guides, and facilitates children preconception through young adulthood and their families to develop energy mastery. In the medical intuitive realms, Ashley demonstrates advanced physiological wisdom in facilitating physical healing with over 32 years of expert pediatric, neonatal, and cardiovascular critical care nursing, combined with multidimensional forms of energy healing, unifying the whole person cognitively, emotionally, and spiritually. With deep passion, mission, and purpose, Ashley is a steward and guide for a multitude of child leaders who have already demonstrated a high level of self realization and who seek support and their self actualized journey in their physical world experiences. You're like a wizard. I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much. It's so beautiful and wonderful to be here with you and everyone. I am just delighted to share our collective wisdom together.
Yes, guys. And I wanted to say, for those of you in Clubhouse, I actually heard Ashley the first time, Ashley Lee, with a room with Jennifer Hill, and she just blew me away when she explained quantum energy healing. And I didn't know if you wanted to get into a little bit about how you got into this. And there's just so much I want to cover with you.
Sure. How did I get into this?
Yeah.
Well, I was born very active and interactive with the energies in life around us, the subtle energies and the energies that are right in front of us all the time. So mental energies, emotional energies, wind, and we can even talk in a little bit into the quantum realm and the scalar realm and other frequencies,
Yes,
right?
please.
That we hear, that we feel, that we see, that we sense, that we know is here amongst and around us. Many times we call them maybe spiritual energies. And they are spiritual because that's who we are, right? We're spiritual inside our physical bodies. And having this opportunity to share that with the world when I was little, and then as I grew up and became a nurse and started to work in other areas. So in Western medicine and in areas where we use a little bit of force, right, to change the way we feel and think and relate to our world around us to promote healing. And in that process, I was born with asthma and allergies. And it took me about 46 years to sort for understanding that there were other ways to heal than medications or typical ways which we see on the planet to heal different conditions, illnesses, and situations that impact our health. And so as I began to be on a journey to heal my asthma and allergies with another pediatric critical care nurse friend who supported me in understanding that chiropractors and massage therapists and other energy healers of different sorts had different platforms to provide medical and health care and wellness in ways we may not have ever understood were available. And so in that process, I healed my asthma and allergies through a computerized system that was digitally integrated with our body and tapped on our backs that accessed our autonomic nervous system that actually physically healed the asthma and allergies in my body. And from that, I woke up, even from the physical aspect, and woke up to the truth of myself, who I am, what I am, and what we're here to bring and do in the world. And that is to express our giftedness, our spiritual giftedness, our energetic giftedness. And that's what I've developed over the last 12 years to integrate this for everyone. And I have this special calling to work with kids and families and practitioners to support that giftedness to come forward, really creating the world we choose to create. And boy, are we in the times right now.
Boy, oh boy, are we. And honest to goodness, we were just talking about the Center for Conscious Kids, and you created that. And is that located in LA?
Well, I'm in San Diego, California, in the
Okay.
USA, and
Mhm.
it's global. It's designed to be a global
Yes.
listening site.
Mhm.
Yeah, I designed it in 2017 when
Mhm.
kids walked out of my office here in San Diego, and they said, "Now that I know the truth of myself, where
Yeah.
do I go eat?" And I'm like, "I don't know." They said, "Where do I go to school?" And I said, "I don't know." And they said, "Who else do I see
Wow.
other than my energy doctor, Ashley?" I said, "I'm a nurse, but it's okay. I get it." And I said, "I don't know." I mean, you know, I just in the realm of 2014 through 2017, we just really didn't see a lot of pediatric energy practitioners on the planet. We have chiropractors and some massage therapists and doulas and different pediatric practitioners, but there weren't many. And there weren't areas where I was recognizing that the kids were waking up to a higher level of consciousness and they wanted to live consciously. So I just, the beautiful world around us, I call it pronoia, our environment that really the universe is here to provide for us. All of a sudden, everything started showing up, including a podcasting studio. And so with some friends of friends in a podcasting studio, I was invited to create a platform called Conscious Living on Center for Conscious Kids. And I created the website to create a listing site similar to what you're doing, right? You're helping people connect to
Mhm.
other opportunities that they didn't know were available. And
Right.
that's what we did was created about 165 podcasts so far to talk to different practitioners around the world about how they access their conscious living and how they provide that with children and families to live more expanded, live more open, live more in their mission, vision, and passion in their world. And that's really what we're here to do, right? Is to improve that relatedness between ourselves, each other, and the environments we create.
Yes, yes, and I wish that, for people that have children that are going, "Where can I find you?" I apologize, I didn't put that up there. I have ashleyleehealing.com, but if they wanted to reach for conscious kids, what is that website again?
That is centerforconsciouskids.com.
Centerforconsciouskids.com, guys. Check that
Yes.
out because, yeah, for just conscious eating, what foods to eat, what
Yeah,
school. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff for
I
kids.
know.
For
And
their
I'm so excited to grow it and expand it to thousands of places around the globe, supporting my new endeavor, creating global energy mastery schools. So that's on the cusp of getting created right now.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. I really am. I was just highly, highly drawn into your quantum energy healing. Do you teach the children that about quantum? Can we get into energy mastery and what that how does that look to people that are just starting out?
Well, let's talk a little bit about quantum energy healing.
Yes.
So, I look at the world in well, there's lots of categories, and sometimes when we create categories or labels, we're able to quantify
Mhm.
through language what these distinctions mean and and where are we pointed to, so that we can create this collective consensus on our reality. I call it reality orientation, and through wording and categorization, we're able to synergize our realities together. And when we do that, then we can start creating relatedness on levels we never knew existed. So, in this process, I've created this idea where we get very clear with our consciousness, we get clear with our awareness and our unconscious awareness and our conscious awareness, and we start to bring them into a completely, totally conscious environment while we sleep, while we rest, while we dream, while we're awake, while we meditate, while we interact with each other, ourselves, and our environment. And so, in that possibility, in that probability, what we do is we create clarity of the mind that connects to the heart, the body, the whole being, whole part of us, even our emotional reactionary parts, right? We get used to going, wow, I responded to that, or wow, that was negative, or wow, that was positive. What is it that we want to do to accelerate or create momentum in our environment?
Mhm.
And so when we get clear with our thoughts, when we get clear with our consciousness and we become aware on all the levels and perspectives of relating, then we start creating the magic in our world. Because people may have not realized it or understood it, but everything in our physical world starts with a thought first.
Mm-hmm.
I had to think, right, or respond to joining you on this podcast, right? I had to think about what color shirt I wanted to wear, what I wanted to do to present myself today. So I had to think about it first. So when we have that clarity of that thinking, that clarity of connecting to what it is we're choosing to have in love, possibly versus fear, for example, we start to create in a conscious way or conscious choices that we didn't know were available before. We start accessing information and awareness and knowledge, developing that into deeper wisdom when we create these relationships. We think that relationship is just about with another person.
Right.
But we actually have a relationship with our clothes, right? With our body, with our inside body, our outside body. We have a relationship with our thinking, our voice, our way of relating, our way of communicating. We have a relationship with each other, and we have a relationship with the environments we create in and around us. And quite honestly, a lot of the kids understand we create this awareness throughout the whole entire globe. So what I get called to in my practice is working with kids that have an awareness that's expanded far beyond their immediate environment. They expand into the weather, they expand into animals, plants, the earth, the cosmos. Their expansion of awareness is much larger. And so sometimes when we work with the energies of seeing, hearing, feeling, and knowing, that can create a lot of confusion or challenges. So that's what I do, is support people and children in becoming clear with how they're thinking, feeling, emoting, and interacting with their world so that they have more choices, more consciousness, and choosing to make decisions based in love, maybe then versus fear that they may or may not know that they're doing. And so when we start to do that, we create health and wellness all throughout our adventures in our relationships in life. And so we have clarity. And when we have clarity, we create brain waves that kind of go out as frequency waves out into the environment. They actually truly impact and influence quantum particles that we maybe can't see. Some of us can see them. I can see different particles. I get used to particles that interact with emotions called neutrinos or torinos. Those are other quantum particles. Lots of kids see these. They kind of look like snow or flakes running through solid objects,
Yes.
right? And we're like, what is that? Why is that doing that? Why is things dancing around the environment, right? Colors and different frequencies. And so what happens is it helps us have awareness of how we're creating that influence and impact in the world around us. So a lot of us are tuned into emotions because every human on the planet comes hardwired to emote. As babies, emoting is not learned. Now, mastering our emotions is another thing that does get learned, right? As we develop relationships, the relationships to ourselves and each other. And so in this environment of emotions, we as babies have the opportunity to giggle when we're a little bit older. We smile, right? Or we frown or we cry. And in that, it allows our caregivers or other people in the environment to react or respond in different ways. And so that responses allows us to start to develop learning in the brain and nervous system. And so as we have clarity of thoughts, clarity of emotions, and we send them out into the world, what they do is they interact with little quantum particles, and then quantum particles uniquely interact with atomic particles. And then we start to move matter, like mattering of relationships, communication, emotions, and physical matter too. And so those are some of the ways in which we create energy mastery in quantum energy healing.
I love it. And like you mentioned, I noticed with my kids, they saw, for instance, one of my sons, they can see colored orbs, and the other one can feel the energy of other things that are in the room. And boy, I wished, well, now that I know you, I'm going to have them, we're going to go on your site because, um, of course, they're interested in their friends more now, but
Makes sense. We're all developing relationships, right? Even
yeah,
with the words we use and the style of communication that we create. And
exactly.
listening and speaking, there's so much to explore and to develop inside of ourselves.
And do you work with special needs children?
I do, and I have. I
Okay.
work with many special needs kids, and there are many different types of special needs kids. There's
Mhm.
physical, there's mental, there's emotional, and even spiritual, quite honestly.
Mhm.
And so we embark on all those different areas that create challenges us, right? And what do we mean by special needs? They're challenged in the way that they
Right,
relate to
right.
themselves and each other. And so what we do is we find avenues and opportunities and ex, potentials in children and in the families that we didn't know were available. So helping even others connect to the kids that have challenges in relationships.
That's wonderful. I will be reaching out to you.
That sounds
I
fantastic.
wanted to ask if anyone, let me just welcome in. I noticed Maria and Inanna, Bev and Zana. Welcome. And we have Nettie and Hunter, Laura, Queen, and Rachel. Welcome, everyone. We're so happy you're here with us. And please know if you just popped in, you can always catch the replay. I have a link pinned above if you're in Clubhouse. And also, please feel free to share this out. We greatly appreciate it. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to type it in the comments. If you're in Clubhouse, if you want to type it in the little chat box, and or if you're on stage, if you have a question, you want to flash your mic. I'm just going to check real quick to see if we have any. I'll give you guys a little time. Nope. Okay. So, yes, energy. Energy is everything. We're everything. And I was watching a video the other day and I thought, wow, it just seems so simple to just take your intention and your word and create an energy bubble. And I'm sure a lot of the people on the stream here, they're familiar with that. Do you teach the children and adults about energy? But how do you start out with that? If we were, because I know to put an intention and to place it in a certain area in my body. And I do that every day. I'm starting to do that now. It took me a while. I mean, you have to reprogram your brain to set that intention and that energy of the type of day you want to have.
That is so true, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
talking about intentions or creating intentions,
mhm,
what I do is I support, it depends on the family and the cultural dynamics of where we are, right? And we talk about our
mhm,
belief systems or our biases or what we believe is true or what isn't true. So, I want to just say prior to today, right? Taking
mhm.
each day new and fresh. The opportunity is what happened in the past may or may not be relevant to what's available in the future or now, right? And so that's what you talked about is right as unlearning what we've learned before.
Mhm.
So our learning styles in schools, right, and in families and in cultures, religion and all sorts of other environments, we've learned specifics about how we learn and how we access learning inside of ourselves and with each other. And a lot of times those learning environments have been limited and been limited by lots of different things. For example, we use an obedience model and a reward and punishment model in our society throughout most of the world,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And so I've got a simple example. Lots of us mothers tell our children to go brush their teeth. Now, when you say go brush your teeth, are you teaching interpersonal responsibility? Most of us think so. But
Mhm.
what if we're just teaching obedience? What if we don't really know why? So, what if we could tell the children or share with the children, even as young as 2, when they start to have teeth? What if we said, you chose to eat food today or drink other things other than water or something like that?
Mhm.
And since you chose to eat food, how would you like to take care of your teeth for the rest of your life? And what does that mean to take care of your teeth? Well, in one way, we can brush our teeth. So, how many times a day would you like to go brush your teeth and be responsible to that for eating food and then taking care of your teeth? Then a lot of times when we position that communication to children, they're more motivated and they're understanding how or why or what's important to do that activity or that action versus just being obedient. Because how many of us are all grown adults saying, I should brush my teeth today. I should brush my teeth today. But it's our mother in our head, right? Or
Yes.
our care provider in our head telling us, go brush your teeth. Or the dentist, right? You have 10 cavities. You have to brush your teeth, or something like that. So we learn through this punishment, right? Or, so the opportunity is, what could we do to start to shift our world to pronounce, promote, and provide interpersonal responsibility for each one of us? And as we stand forward in today's time, right now, what would that be like? Over everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we think, everything that we emote, that we have the capacity to do that. A lot more healing, a lot more wellness, a lot more opportunity for optimal relationships start to arise in our environments. And that's what I really support. That was just one example of brushing your teeth. But that's what I support on so many levels, to activate, to open, and to opportunize, right, our world around us.
I love that. And can I say, I've learned throughout my journey that a lot of this it's belief clearing. Clearing. And quite frankly, we bring things in from, uh, I say past lives, but it's all, and how do you address that? Is that when, yeah.
How do you address that? Well, a lot of kids are coming in. We're all awakening to the truth of ourselves.
Right.
And many people go, what does that mean, right? The truth of ourselves.
Yep.
Right? Our divinity, right? Like your program, the divine I am.
Yes.
Right? What does that mean? Right? Mm-hmm. And what does that look like in our everyday lives, in our everyday environment? And really, I look at the divinity as there's in our duality world, in our cause and effect world, we look at good and bad, right and wrong, up and down, black and white. But what if we just looked at love and fear? It's kind of as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that's kind of negative or doesn't work out or manipulative or, a negative energy, what if it's just fear-based? And what if sometimes fear-based allows us opportunities to see things we wouldn't have seen before? And that if we just looked at fear that way, rather than being afraid of it, right? Afraid of fear, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think we talk about that much or present that much in our environments, is where are we afraid of our own fear or the fear of others? And a lot of times that fear is pronounced or brought into our environments negatively. And so when we have the opportunity to go, wow, that's a fear-based thinking. That's fear-based emoting. That's a fear-based reaction. That's a fear-based way of thinking or believing. When we do that, I took a look around my house one day and I go, wow, I think I did a lot of things in my environment from a fear-based.
Right.
Is it the cheapest? Is it going to, last the longest? I don't want to go buy it again.
Yes.
All of those sort of things, right? I don't have enough time. All of those things. Instead, what if the same action can happen and I go and purchase the same things? And what if I choose, wow, I would like to purchase something for my home that isn't super costly, as I have opportunities to purchase other things. And then, or I want to have it last a long time because I don't want to fill a landfill with old furniture. Or, I really want it to be beautiful for everyone to enjoy, not just me. And so in this process, we do the same action, but the way in which we think about that action turns out to a different result. And the result is inside us, not inside the furniture I just bought.
You're just getting a lot of reaction here. I wanted this show. Yes, because that's what I found myself. I'm like, wow. I brought a lot of this conditioning in. And I'm really trying to rewire my brain and to help in my own home. Wait a minute, guys, before we get all emotional here. because it's going to impact the whole house and spread out. I mean, I I see things. I don't see huge, ginormous thought bubbles, but I know they're out there, and I try to just sort of surround myself with people that I enjoy their company, and at the same time, I'm growing. I'm growing when you have to. That's what you're here for. You signed up for. But as far as thinking, and eh, for instance, someone that has ADHD, I see that as you're functioning in that higher realm, but we're viewed down here as, you know what I'm talking about.
I completely know what you're talking about. You know, I used to be challenged when I was a kid too.
Mhm.
You could call it ADHD. I called it spiritual ADD, or
Yeah.
energetic ADD. I'd be like, oh man, that color flew across the room. I can hear the background noise louder than the primary speaker.
Mhm.
The lights, the fluorescent lights, are humming and buzzing louder than the teacher's talking. The school bell is really loud, and I didn't hear what the last sentence was. Um, I'm hearing people's thoughts inside their head that are,
Mhm.
always not pleasant and throw you off a little bit. You're like, really? Did they just think that, or did they just say that? Or their emotions, right? And the colors around their body start to shift and change, and it's
Mhm.
very exciting to look at. And
It
and then it's
is.
very hard to pay attention to what it is the person's actually sharing or wanting to share, right? And some of the hardest things too, this idea of ADHD is, when people speak and say something, a lot of times we've been conditioned in environments and cultures not to speak the truth. We've been told or shared to speak what people want to hear. And when we do that, we don't realize we're speaking inauthentically. So a lot of times we may think something like, I hate you. And then I'm like,
Mhm.
whoa, you look beautiful today, or something like that. And you're like, really? Did you really just say that? And did you really just think that other thing? And which is really true? So for most telepaths, or most people who can read minds, which most people don't even want to really read minds, right?
Right.
And what is the purpose of that? And how is that helpful?
I'm having
And
a hard
so I
time with
work,
my own.
right? I work with a lot of children that don't realize that, they hear the person's thoughts just as loud as someone said it out loud.
Mm.
And so it's very hard to determine, in this spiritual ADD or energetic ADD, it's very hard to determine what's real, what's truthful, what's honest, what's authentic, and
Mhm.
where people are really coming from, because they're not really learned on how to share authentically.
Right.
Right? We share out of niceties. We share because we were told to share, or only say something if you have something nice to say. So we haven't learned how to go, wow, I have a conflict. I'm unresolved. I'm really irritated. I'm pissed off. And I don't know how to share this eloquently so that I can actually speak to you in a way that can get us through something that's challenging, right? We don't know how to present that. And
Mhm.
then when we present that with the little kids, they're like, I'm not going to talk like that. My friends won't like me, right?
Exactly.
And stuff like that. So we're here now to create new schools, to create new opportunities, to create new levels of communication, both on the inner, right, and the heart and the mind, and on the outer, right, with our voice, with our nonverbal communication, with how we look, with how our body language is, all those sorts of things. And so we can take that whole realm of communication and augment it in such ways that we're here to support one another, bringing forward our true nature, our divinity, right? Our love, and bring that forward and support one another with that. And so from the ADHD, for example, though, a lot of the kids, even kids with challenged processing, like autism and other things, they've showed me very clearly how even kids, savants that are on the autistic spectrum, if you could call it that. I don't even know that I want to call it that anymore.
Yeah,
I'd like
yeah.
the kids to call it, but they can hold multiple awarenesses at the same time.
Right.
So they can listen to a Spotify music in one ear. They can listen to or watch a YouTube video in another ear and on their phone. And they can be on their computer doing mathematics homework. And a lot of times that they utilize other augmentative things like music to get the right brain going, or like looking at a movie to follow a sequence of events to actually augment their mathematical computations. And so we can utilize all of the aspects of our brain all at once and hold multiple awarenesses at the same time, 100%. And a lot of these kids know how to do it. They don't know how to communicate it, and they don't know how to share. And some, let's say, for example, they hate mathematics, so they'd rather listen to music instead. But they don't realize that some of their music choices actually interfere with their mathematics. So they could pick different music to create cadence, timing, and sequencing that would actually improve their mathematical computations. So they could listen to classical music or nature music that could help them get them back on path to supporting them with some of their scholastic endeavors if they choose to do that. So it's more about, instead of shutting the kid down and saying, don't listen to Spotify and don't watch that movie on YouTube, say which one of these multiple awarenesses actually help you do your homework or do your tasks. And they'll be able to tell you. And then which one distracts you. And because and are you choosing distraction because you don't like the content of the scholastic work you have to do? And they'll answer you. And then you say, okay, but what if you concentrated and used another awareness to support you fully focusing on that scholastic thing and get that done quicker in 18, 22 minutes instead of taking 2 hours? And then you can watch the movie wholeheartedly, the one that you want to watch or be entertained with, or go out and play or do something else. So they're not sure how to qualify and support their awarenesses that augment their realities, that support optimal usage of their time, their effort, their energy, and their resources. And I mean, even teaching this to toddlers is valuable.
Oh my goodness, I'm just blown away. Well, I'm going to be, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to be rewatching this with my children because for those of you that have kids, I'm sure you've maybe said this. I've said it. Guys, why are you listening? Like you said, what aren't you supposed to be doing homework? And they've got the TV on, and I didn't think about with the multiple consciousness. And I know with my one son that I've kind of figured that out. But my other son, wow, guys, geez. I mean, this could be benefiting them when we have to ask them instead of shutting them down and saying, hey, because this is what we knew, you know?
Right. Well, and then learning to listen is
Mhm.
really valuable. Understanding the multiple states of awareness that you have. So
Right.
I can listen with my eyes. So I'm a seer. So I see people's emotions. I see all kinds of things that I was unclear what I was seeing. I thought everybody could see like I could see. So
Mhm.
I didn't know that other people were having different experiences. And I didn't know how to communicate that and share that in such a way, not to be different or special or all of this. It's really about to say, oh, okay, actually, when somebody gets emotionally overwhelmed, you might see auras around them that start to change and disrupt your ability to really be compassionate or be present to their emotions, because you're a little bit going, well, they were just blue and now they're red. What's going on? You know, and saying, I could have been taught when I was 5. I sense that you are having an emotional situation. May I give you a hug? May I support you? May I help? Whatever, Instead, I was like shocked, and then you start asking people, and then they're like mad because maybe you knew something before they did. And we're a lot in our world about comparison and competition. And
Mhm.
and moving away from that for a little while for humanity might be a breath of fresh air, to move from competition to collaboration. I was just with a friend in Sedona, Arizona, and she has a 10-year-old, and they were just playing a new game. I'm not sure what it was called, but it was very amazing because it was all or nothing game. It was fabulous. It wasn't about 4 players competing to win and one wins and everyone else loses. It was such a cool game. When one wins, they all win. When one loses, they all lose. So they got to take individually and then collectively interpersonal responsibility for how the game plays out. And
I
I was I know. I was like, oh, can we do that for a little while on the planet? To
With
bring
adults.
back these levels of collaboration and confluence and congruence and start to really understand the applications of what that means relationally.
I got a kick out of this when you said you're looking and not everybody can see and realize everybody, you are perfect, a perfect energy being. We're clearing out a lot of beliefs down here. And I just want to say, when you said that, I envisioned you looking at like we're all walking mood rings.
Exactly. You know, the truth is we really are.
Yeah, and I'll never forget, guys, when I went to my first Reiki session, and I was like, "Wow, did anybody else feel like you were being looked at?" You know, and some of the ladies can see energy, and I had this lady staring at me. I'm like, "Wow, we must. What are we wearing here?" That's so. And she said, "Your boys are so connected. You guys are so connected." She could see the connection of the cord, and so
Right.
now when I'm around folks like-minded, that and I'm like, "What are they looking at?" It makes you a little conscious. It's so funny. But here we are. Ironically, we had mood rings back then.
Here we are. We had mood rings, right, in the
Yeah.
70s and the 80s. And then in 2014, I had a child come in and he saw me once, and I didn't even know how they found me at that time. And he came in, first words, his mom sat down in the recliner, and there's a massage table for the kids to receive energy healing and in the office. And he came in and he directly said to me, he said, "How come we don't talk like this?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, I asked my own higher self, I said, "What do I say?" And the mom's like not with us at all in this conversation. And I said, what do I say? And my higher self said, "Just tell the truth." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's tell it." I said, "Do you know what that's called?" He said, "No." I said, "It's called telepathy." I would love it if the kids make up a new word to describe what this is. But
Mhm.
it's us sharing our thoughts with each other openly, authentically, and all that. And then he said, "Well, how come we don't talk like that?" I said, "Well, because us grown-ups, we have unconscious thoughts and feelings that are not pleasant. And we don't keep a check on those. We don't really know we're even having them." And he said, "You mean those things in the back of your head that you don't even know are there?" I said, "Yeah, that's it. Can I use that definition? Because that's awesome for unconscious thoughts and
I love
feelings."
that.
And I said, "Yeah, exactly. We don't know they're there. So how will you help me, help the world understand how to bring these thoughts and feelings that are unaware of to our awareness so that we can reframe them and start to begin to talk and speak authentically and openly with each other?" And then when we have a negative thought or feeling, a lot of the kids go, "Yeah, but what happens when I have bad thoughts and I want to have bad thoughts so that I can express my anger, my madness, or so I can get clear with what it is I'm actually thinking about?" And I said, "That's awesome." So one of them is who's 7. She goes, "Can I beam me up a little shell around me so that I have my own?" I go, "Yeah, for us adults, we call it a padded room." And I said, "Yeah, you can beam up your special little padded room and start to scream and yell and have your own party with yourself and get clear with your unconscious thoughts and feelings so that you can start to go, wow, that pisses me off, or that makes me angry, or, how come you don't take out the trash and I take out the trash all the time, and stuff like that, so that we can start to actually share more authentically." And what she was describing is developing energetic opportunities around us to remain private, right? Private to our own experience, but be knowledgeable about it. Because if we put up a little bubble around us, because we're always having bad thoughts and feelings, or we're negatively based, right? We're fear based
Mhm.
thinking all day long. We don't realize, but if we put up a little barrier, people might not be able to hear us at all when we have something supportive or positive or interrelationally we want to share.
Right.
So it's valuable to really be conscious of what we're doing with our energy moment to moment. And I tell you, it is amazing to recognize how unaware we are of what we do with our energy. Like, a lot of us are growing, and a lot of us are expanding, and a lot of us are becoming more and more conscious with ourselves and each other. And when we do that, I started acting earlier this year, acting like a little Tesla baby, running around, turning on electronics all over the place. I was like, oh my God, just because I'm allowing myself to feel my emotions, because when I was younger, I recognized that negative emotions would blow stuff up.
Yeah.
And I can tell you a lot of kids do that. And then they recognize, they're like, it's bad to emote. It's bad to have a bad emotion. Don't do that. Suppress it. You know, we don't even know we're suppressing it or going into denial about it. Or, you know, I was the queen of disassociation. I disassociated all over the place. I'm like, I don't like this. I'm leaving. I'm going to go be in the tree. I'm going to go be in the bird. I'm going to go be in the clouds. I'm going to get off the planet. I'm going to go to the precipice of creation. That was my favorite place to hang out when I was a kid. It's the 0 point. It's the still point. It's the place before we begin to create. I didn't even know it. I was just like, this is the greatest hangout. Nobody else follows me here. So I was like, it was my own little Shangri-La until a healer found me, and she goes, where are you? And I'm like, I'm in my favorite spot. How did you find me here? And she said, well, it's dark, but it's warm. It's nice. It's pleasant. I said, yes. So we started making up names. Acupuncturists and other people called it the 0 point, the still point. But it was a place where I could go and return to peace. And didn't know. And I have a feeling a lot of people on the planet know this space, but don't know what it's called, don't know what it's about, don't know why we're here. Right. So that's where we can start to create from, is the precipice of creation.
And I was going to ask, because a lot of us know that are doing energy work and healing, and, you know, for muggle people, I guess people refer them to, or lay people, whatever, that aren't practicing, you are doing it, whether you know you're practicing or not. But we know about grounding and centering and protecting. And so what are your thoughts on when you're going, like I go out barefoot on the ground just to get the Mother Earth and what are your thoughts on all of this?
It is a beautiful question. So let's start with grounding.
Yep.
I love this idea. And while working through lots of conflict resolution and 0 pointing out and releasing our charge, right, in our world, our emotional charges, our emotional reactions to discernments or assessments or judgments that we may have that we don't recognize, we're impacting and influencing our environment. And so when we get grounded, people used to tell me all the time, when I woke up about 12 years ago, healing my asthma and allergies, and I woke up to the energy healer that I've always been, that I didn't realize or didn't know how to communicate or share with others yet. And so in that process, I realized that everyone kept saying, Ashley, you're out of your body, you're out of your body, you're out of your body. And I'm like, I think that's called disassociation. I don't think it's really out of your body, because I'm in my body too. I'm preferring to have my awareness somewhere else. And so people didn't really know how to label these ideas or understanding, and they thought that grounded was out of your body. But what if you are grounded in your awareness, and you're choosing to have your awareness out of your body? It's in the clouds, it's in the bush, it's in the doggy, it's in another person, because you wanted to know their perspective. Whatever it is, when you're conscious about where your awareness is, that's grounded. When you're conscious and you're choosing it, not defending it or denying it or disassociating because you want to escape, right? But you're actually being present to where your awareness is. That's grounded. Because then you're able to understand the divinity within you, and that your consciousness can be anywhere and everywhere. And when we start mastering that opportunity, that's called the prescience, or the opportunity to be present in multiple states of awareness. And so when we get grounded in where our presence is, then we have choice about where we'd like to presence our awareness to. The listening of someone, the relationship with someone, the opportunity of creating a listening so that people can hear you and not misunderstand you. Or, I really don't like this environment, I'm going to go somewhere else and I'm going to daydream and move on, right? Or whatever. But then we can say that. And if someone says, you're not being present, say, I'm really not. And I didn't know how to say, I really don't like the communication, or I don't like this space I'm in, and I'd like to remove myself. Because as children, we're not always available to remove ourselves, right? We're required to be in certain areas we don't want to be. And so what if in a classroom, let's just say, maybe we don't even have those anymore, but let's say that we do, or we have a group of people listening to a teacher, and what the teacher has to say is kind of nonsensical and doesn't land for the students. What if all the students kind of went off and daydreamed and said, I'd like to be somewhere else? And what if the teacher goes, wow, you guys are all disassociated to another space and awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something I'm saying, or I'm not being able to land this? How can I land this better for all of you to benefit from this time together that we have? Right? As teachers, we haven't even learned, or adults, we haven't learned to speak that way with children and understand why they're disassociating, or why they're moving on, or why their awareness isn't it, because they're feeling forced to be present. And then we learn as children, we're forced to be present. So then we carry this sort of behavior into adulthood. And then we feel like I'm forced to be present at my job. I'm forced to be present on the phone with somebody I don't even want to talk to, whatever it is, right? And instead, we haven't learned how to share with one another, how to reposition the orientation of the reality for benefit for all.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here going, I hope everybody's. So, what I'm getting from this is um, we have our consciousness, and that can be in multiple because it's multidimensional. And then we have science trying to catch up, and then we fall back sometimes and go, okay, like the Earth is negatively charged, emitting negative ions and electrons. I've been going out and grounding because the scientists say this helps me, but you've known this, and you don't. I'm getting it. Okay.
So many times, right, acupuncturists,
Mhm.
tappers, EFT people, right, we tap on different meridians in our body.
Yes.
Why are we tapping? We're
Mhm.
realigning the magnetism in our body, our
Yes.
toroidal ways in which we move energy through our body, which we may or may not be aware of,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of times emotional charged energies. That is, we have a thought and then we judge that thought and we put an emotion into it. A lot of times negative emotions create imbalances in our magnetism.
Mhm.
And even positive emotions, if we all ran around overjoyed all day long, we'd have kind of an overbalance of that too. So the way to charge collapse, right, or
Mhm.
0 point things
Right.
is to let go of the emotional charge, positive or negative, to go to neutral or to go to peace. And so
Right.
when you go out on the ground and you get grounded, or hold a copper ball or a copper wire or something like
Mhm.
that, right? Or a magnet, a lot
Mhm.
of times that will help us remagnetize our energy.
Mhm.
And so when we create a charge collapse and we collapse that emotional charge, because emotions are very supportive in our world, we don't realize it. But when we embody an emotion related to a thought, we accelerate manifested form. And I know that sounds very scientific and kind of, out there, but it's really not.
Mm-mm.
Just think of it as we have a thought and we don't like it. And we get angry and upset. And that energy pushes through the environment very rapidly. And what it does is it lights a fire under us, right? To do something about it, to change it, because it feels uncomfortable. And since it feels uncomfortable, we make that change. Sometimes that choice of that change is based in fear. And so it's a negative outcome, right? So we choose to act out more or get violence or do something, right? Instead of going, wow, that's a negative charge. I wanted to create change. So I got angry or upset. I wanted to create change. Since I want to create change, how would I like to create that solution? So instead, I breathe in the love that I am, because we're all love. That's our
Mhm.
divinity.
Mhm.
And I breathe out that anger that I created or I sourced as an emotion to make a change. And then I go, wow, I'm going to go to peace. I'm going to go to neutral so that I can actually create a solution based in love. Not love, fluffy love, and overjoy love.
Mhm.
Just neutral, plain, compassionate love, absent of judgments. And that's where we find a lot of the most fruitful and productive ways to create in our world that we never knew we could do.
Mhm.
It starts to change everything. And talking about magnetism for just a moment, sharing this idea, because I worked with a 12-year-old around the world, and he was amazed because he was doing muscle testing or accessing universal knowledge and information.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing it from a preference where a lot of his parents and other people in his world were bottom to top thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
They viewed the world from the bottom to top. That means the little thing, and then one next step, and one next step, and one next step.
Mm-hmm.
However, he's expanded. He has multiple states of awareness at the same time. He's a visionary. He's a thought leader. He just doesn't know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But his world is up here in the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of learner is he? He's a top to bottom learner. And top to bottom learners have a hard time completing. They have a hard time getting things together. They have a hard time getting things literally off the ground. They look like they're procrastinating. They look like they don't care. They look like they're flighty, they're stupid, or they're arrogant, or they're whatever. But it's none of those things. They just didn't know how to recognize that they're running their energy, their magnetic energy, from the top of their head down to the bottom of their feet. They're barely touching planet Earth. They're barely touching. I used to tell my web designer, I said, can we get this done in 2 steps? And she's like, no, it takes 45 steps. And I'm like, why does it take 45 steps? Why do we get something done in 45 steps? What does that mean? Why do we have to take that long? So, that's what's really positive. So I, as a top to bottom learner, would benefit from being around people who are functional leaders, who are bottom to top thinkers,
Mm-hmm.
who are going to be able to put these systems and structures in place for me to be able to activate these wild, huge visionary dreams
Right.
into practice, into format, into physical form.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't know that. But when we awaken to the divinity of ourselves, what do you think we're awakening?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a lot of us that are bottom to top learners, or that's the way we were told we had to be,
Mm-hmm.
we start to open and recognize that we can run energy, magnetic energy, in different ways. And then that's going to yield different awarenesses. And we don't realize that. So when somebody's talking nitty gritty and the visionary's talking to a nitty gritty person, I'm like, oh, maybe I should pay attention. maybe I'm missing the point. Instead of me being right and them being wrong, or them being right and me being wrong, what if we have different perspectives, and that those different perspectives serve a purpose to create the whole construct of reality we're here to create together?
Loving it. Collaborating, co-creating. I love that, as opposed to you're right, I'm wrong, and all that. And yeah. And
right.
Oh my goodness, just to be able to tap into, if you find yourself in that old fuddy-duddy feeling sometimes, go out and play, be around kids, do something fun, something that brings joy into your heart, because that's where the imagination you can tap into.
It sure is.
Yeah. So,
right. And we can have imagination too, from the ethers and
mm-hmm.
from our guides and from, God and Holy Spirit and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or we could have information from the ants.
Yep.
We could have information from the mud, the dirt, the ground, the water. We could access information and knowledge and understanding all throughout our world, which we didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked the kids, talk to the ants. What do the ants say? They're like, we have to work together. We have to go in single file. I don't know. They take an observation. And then I ask them, instead of observing from the human eye point of view where you're standing way above them,
mm-hmm.
go down into their awareness and actually see what they're actually thinking. Mm-hmm. Actually experience it from an ant's point of view, from the ant's eyes, from the ant's body. And go into that awareness and understand that. So, for example, bees, I really didn't understand bees. And someone, a meditation that called me out to be a queen bee. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be the queen bee. I don't want to be the boss. I don't want to blah, blah, blah. And then I get a meditation. Could you stop projecting human thoughts about what the queen bee is? And could you step actually into that? And I'm like, well, yeah, I could do that. So I step into it and I'm like, oh, she's not the boss of everybody. What she does is she carries a larger bandwidth of frequencies where her job, her interpersonal responsibility, her constitution is to send out to this bee format. You go over here and pollinate the daisies. You go over here and pollinate the roses. You go over here and pollinate, the zucchini, whatever, right? And so the queen bee has the opportunity to create organizational structures and systems, not be the boss of everybody. That's not in her genre of activity. And I'm like, oh, I guess I could be the queen bee. What does that mean? And so we we don't realize it, but we project all of this humanism into everything that we do, and we don't recognize. I mean, step into a cloud like a rain system or a hurricane system, and what I recognize, just like you were sharing earlier, is the barometer changes because we impact it. Our Schumann resonance, I call it the CNN ticker tape above us, the false news network, I'm just saying, but what happens is we impact our environment around us. We actually cause barometric changes related to our collective consciousness. So I realized when I went back to the memory of my birth, I was bringing in, after the delivery of my being outside of my mom's womb. And I realized I was taking on the egoic collective consciousness. And it was very impactful at that first day of life. And I'm like, wow. So now, being 58 years old, I go, okay, from birth and every minute from beyond there to now, I'm going to let go of that egoic collective consciousness or acknowledge it. And instead of project and get mad about it and get upset about it or judge it, I'm going to be compassionate to it. And the compassion means I'm 100% absent, or practice it, to be 100% absent of all judgments or all reactionary emotions. And I'm going to be compassionate, full of caring and love, being neutral and acknowledging it for what it is. And then choosing to change my consciousness maybe to an empowered state of being called collective synergy consciousness. Now, with words and opportunities and ways in which we vibrate and emit our energy, I can start standing in empowered states of being by learning how to let go of my charged or emotional, reactive states of being. And I can teach this to infants, toddlers, any age group, including kids in utero, by telepathically or empathically or soul whispering to them on multiple levels so that they're able to activate within inside themselves their own self-healing, their own interpersonal responsibility in utero. I even say even before conception.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun. That's where telepathy comes in. I used to go when I was a kid. I was like, la 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 la. I don't want to hear your 2 cents. I don't want to hear what you have to think or say or whatever. Because to me it was all saying. Everybody was saying everything, whether they were speaking or not. Everybody was saying everything.
Right.
They were talking endlessly. And what I realized was, instead of cutting down my hearing in my audience or my ability to hear on multitudes of levels, because then I stop hearing God, I stop hearing the tree talk, I stop hearing the birds tell me things, or the ants tell me, or the queen bee telling me what it is about, right? I stopped listening because I didn't want to hear everything. Right. And I didn't realize I was shutting down my hearing. So when I opened it back up, I asked myself in the intensive care unit, I said to my higher self, I said, how come I have extraordinary, ridiculous, like off the Richter scale telepathy? And then my higher self said, well, what is the child who's on the bed, hooked up to life support, who's in a drug-induced coma? What are they thinking? And I'm like, well, she's happy. She's okay. She's doing well. She's sedated. She's not thinking very much. She's okay. She's calm. She's centered. And my higher self didn't say, well, you helped her center. But my higher self said, see? And I go, oh, so I can be the words through clarity without judgments. I can be a clear channel or a clear telepath to people who can't speak for themselves. So I can walk into another room as a charge nurse or a resource nurse or somebody else, right? A mentor or something else. And I can walk into a room and I can say, the child you're caring for is really uncomfortable. And they say, how do you know? And I say, well, through the simple signs, the heart rate's elevated, the blood pressure's elevated, and just tune in for a second, hold the child's hand. What are they saying inside themselves? And then the nurse would go, oh, they're scared. Yes. So what's one way we can help? Oh, I can give more anti-anxiety medications in the intensive care unit, right? That's one way, right? And then we can learn healing touch in other ways, Reiki and other formats of energy healing that can help offload some of the emotional energy. But we don't realize that we have lots of options when our assessment skills get cleaner and have more clarity. And the way that we increase our assessment skills is by releasing judgments, preconceived notions, limiting beliefs, and projections.
That's what I've been doing since I started my journey, guys. I don't know about you. That's all I do. Peel back another layer.
Peel back another layer. Some things are deep and 50,000 layers, and some things are right up front and you can get them done.
Oh my
But that's
goodness.
the fun part of it, and so when it doesn't release, when it's still present, you just go, wow, there's another layer. Wow, there's another layer. And a lot of times they're perspectives. They're one perspective built upon another perspective upon another. And that's where we start developing this idea or this construct called collective consciousness.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to have you back on again. You're so I'm just like, yay! It's like,
Yay.
Yeah. And we didn't even get into like genetic consciousness and all that. And it's like, I've heard you. It's like, this is why she's here, guys. I just love listening to what you're putting out here. I mean, it's truth.
It's truth. We have the opportunity to experience that.
Yeah. But I just was checking in the feeds. We're actually, geez, like I said, boom, 701, guys. But before we go, I just wanted to make sure if anybody had any questions, anybody on stage, if you have any questions, please feel free to flash your mic. And I know that sometimes they get stuck. Just want to give you a little bit of pause here. But let me just pop back on. Right. There we go. Oh my goodness. I was like, oh, I'm home when I met you through Clubhouse because I so get it, you know? But I am going to definitely be reaching out to you for the children because, like I said, guys, if you have kids, definitely check it out. And it's the Center for Conscious Kids.com.
Yes.
And, but also you can reach Ashley Lee at Ashley Lee Healing. And I have a bunch of her links underneath the video. If you're in Clubhouse, you can click on YouTube, but yeah, there's a bunch of stuff because you also have you're on Awake TV, correct?
I was on Awake TV, did 5 TV show series, Quantum Energy Healing, Genetic Consciousness with a Geneticist, talking about how our consciousness literally changes and augments our genetic expression in the world, therefore augmenting our health, releasing stress and moving into empowered states of being. And then Hidden Superpowers, where I support through 12 episodes,
I saw that.
different levels of acumen or energetic abilities that kids have that parents and children may be confused about. Like, what is it? What are some of the challenges with it? And then what are the practical applications in our everyday world with these abilities?
Right.
And then I moved into Leap of Consciousness for us grownups so that we can leap our consciousness, releasing our conflicts so that we move from conflict avoidance to conflict resolution and dropping that collective charge so that we move into greater levels of abundance through receiving and creating a shareable wave between one another. Right. And moving into that. And then our other website called centerforconsciousawareness.org, supporting releasing victim consciousness on the planet so that we actually
wonderful.
Move. Yeah. Called A Miracle Is You.
Can you please repeat that again? Awareness for consciousness?
Centerforconsciousawareness.org.
Centerforconsciousawareness.org.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to share that out as well after the broadcast on your
Thank you.
Because you have so many. Honestly,
I know we have so many avenues to enter consciousness and to support the kids and families really be that divine, true expression of themselves.
Right. Well, I can't thank you enough, guys. And let me just check. I think if anybody has any questions, please feel free to flash your mic, looking in the feeds. Okay, guys, I don't want to hold you up anymore because I've just absolutely enjoyed every bit of this. And I would love to have you back on again. I know
I would
you're a
love to
busy
be back.
lady. Oh
Thank
my
you.
God, I just love it. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And I hope you'll reach out if any of this resonated for you to Ashley Lee. And she has a global energy mastery schools, as we've talked about. And if you just popped on, please go back and watch that replay. Highly recommend. And thank you, Ashley Lee.
Thank
And
you.
we will be talking again. So
That
much
sounds
love to
awesome.
you. So much love to everyone. Take care. Bye,
Bye.
guys.